Joost Roelandts, you are the CEO of Twoo.com. Thanks so much for your time today. Lorenz and Toon, the co-founders, actually announced recently that they're moving on to their own projects. So what's your story? When did you start with Twoo?
I actually started with the company before we started Twoo. I'm with the company now for 9 years. I joined it in 2007. I started as a web developer. I've been growing together with the company, you could say. I've taken up many roles in the beginning, only development, then starting to follow up on development and following up on more and more and more until I was the COO basically. And I was a small 2 years COO when Loelandts and Toon decided to, focus a bit more on their other projects, and they're still part of the board, and so they're still in an advisory role, but basically stepped down from their day-to-day roles.
Of course, Match acquired the company in 2012, 2013 time. What's it been like working with Match?
I think it's great. We kind of have the best of everything, I believe. There's a huge knowledge sharing philosophy within the group, and we've learned a lot from other companies in the group, and I hope at least, but I believe vice versa. It's really nice to come from this small group of people that had to reinvent themselves all the time and solve all problems we encountered basically ourselves, to having this large group of people who have so much experience on specific engineering, but definitely also product from a dating perspective. So I think the knowledge sharing is definitely the key benefit we gained. And at the same time, we're still very independent on how we run the company, and especially on the company culture, company team. There hasn't been a lot of changes in the team, I mean, in amount and type of people since the acquisition. So I think that's a good sign of the fact that we are still, in a sense, this small independent company, but at the same time have this huge support group behind us, you could say.
I think there's always a question when companies consider, should they be acquired by Match? Should, you know, when they're considering that final step, what's it like working with Match in terms of how tight is the relationship? What are the, you know, is there much pressure from HQ? I mean, how often do you visit Dallas, for example?
Myself, it's on average 1 time a year. And so that's not too much. And I would say that there's not so much pressure. We of course, we have monthly meetings where we go over results and things like that. And obviously, if there's things that are not going well, they want to dig in more, which makes sense. But on the other hand, we talk about strategy quite a lot, but in essence, we prepare strategy for, in this time, for 2017, for example, ourselves, and then start talking about it to HQ and seeing if there's any things they believe that we should do more or less. But in general, strategy is mostly determined from within each company. Of course, the Match Group needs to think about portfolio also, but in general, it's not really demanding, and there's not too much pressure, I feel at least.
How does the knowledge sharing work? Say if you spot a particular feature pop up on OkCupid and you want to get some insight on just how much traction that's getting, how much time does it take for you to get through to the engineers, the managers that are in charge of those, you know, the designers that are working on that?
Usually it's a matter of a day or something like that. Gotcha. But by now we at least have one contact in every company, and you just shoot them a mail and say, hey, I'm interested in this new thing you're doing, or I heard that you are working on this. I would love to chat about it. And then you get into a video call in the next day or maybe week. And so it's quite, there's no real structure around it, but it's really easy. Especially like I've been to Dallas a couple of times, and then you meet more and more people. So usually you know already in who to talk to. So and then it's easy. And I always have the feeling that everybody's really willing to help, and so I definitely have a very positive experience with those things.
And you mentioned, of course, Roelandts and Twoo. It's been, well, it's 2012. It's over 3 years now. That
Yes.
Roelandts and Twoo were remaining the heads of the company. That's a little unusual for an acquisition. And a lot of time the leaders will turn over after a year or two. So that's a good sign. But you mentioned culture. I think you've got an unusual culture with Twoo because you really started with Netlog, with a social network. You had a leading social network in Benelux, essentially, and then transitioned over to Twoo with the rise, I guess, of Facebook and the decline of MySpace being an inspiration. You made the jump over to dating with social, essentially Twoo is social discovery, would you say? Is it more social discovery?
Yes, and definitely it started like that. So indeed, we originally built and maintained Netlog, but with Facebook becoming bigger and bigger, and especially in 2010 when they really cracked translations, which was, I think, what held them back until then, we started to see real issues because being Belgian, we had to do translations from the first day, basically, because otherwise it would have been really small as a small country with a small language. So we were quite good in any country that did not have a lot of English speakers. But once they cracked translations, we immediately realized that it would be extremely difficult to do anything against them. But one of the things that we noticed on Netlog is that besides keeping in touch with people you know, which Facebook still is really good at, we from the beginning had some features that were more like social discovery, get to know new friends with similar hobbies or mindsets or whatever. And we saw that when the other users were declining and moving away to Facebook, we saw that those people were actually sticking around, and we noticed that there was a real need for people to have a platform specifically built to meet new friends or for whatever purposes. So that's why we said we need to build a platform that's specifically built for that, because Netlog it had some of those features, but it was definitely not very much built for that. So that's how we started building Twoo. And also that's one of the reasons why we were able to grow so fast with Twoo, because we had this already batch of users on Netlog that we knew were looking for a product like this. So there was a lot of cross-sell from Netlog to Twoo in the beginning, of course.
And of course, Facebook has always steered clear of being in any way dating, and so that was a very timely and brilliant transition. That was just at the right point in time, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and it definitely was not the easiest decision, I think, for Roelandts and Twoo, because it meant completely changing the company. The business model of Netlog was almost completely based on advertising, so we had quite a large sales team focusing on advertising, while with Twoo actually decided to go back to the origin, you could say, and focus almost completely on user payments. So it meant really transitioning the company completely. So it was definitely not the easiest decision, but indeed I think it was at the right time. That's why Roelandts and Twoo are who they are, and they are brilliant entrepreneurs, and they have a good sense of timing, definitely.
So there are a few missing last opportunities in internet dating. One of them seems to be video. No one's really cracked video yet, and you have some new functionality which you're announcing imminently around video. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, indeed, I do agree that video within online dating is definitely not cracked yet. And we've done some small experiments. We introduced a feature called Clips a couple of months ago, where users can send short video messages to each other. But we launched it in the beginning, or until now at least, only between matches, so mutual likes, just to make sure that well, this is wanted and that there's no content sent between users that are not necessarily interested in each other. And we see some positive impact of that, but not hugely. The feature we're working on currently is a video biography, which will allow users to upload not only a picture to their profile, but also some short introduction videos. And instead of giving them like this open option to, hey, why don't you upload a video? We think that the key problem with video with video creation is that a lot of people don't really have the inspiration on what should I do, what should I say. Taking a picture is easy, it's just smile and click, while taking a video you really need to know what am I going to do or what am I going to say. So we think that that's one of the problems why video hasn't taken off on any of the platforms that tried it in online dating. So the video biography is actually asking some very specific questions to users that they should answer. So it's not like open-ended, hey, upload a video. It's more like, why don't you make a short video on answering a question, like I have to look into what kind of questions we ask, but it's really simple questions on what's important for you in a date, for example, or I think things like that. Very simple questions that give a user an immediate inspiration on what to record in the video. And also, of course, with that, we can use this very easily as a short introduction. It's kind of replacing an intro text with something that's a lot more real. You can immediately see how the person is on video, and in a sense, it also solves a bit of a problem with like catfishing and photos that are from 20 years ago and things like that. Because video, it's a lot harder to steal or fake, especially because we want people to answer questions. You can't just grab it off the internet. So it's at the same time a bit solving or adding credibility to the users and giving the users that visit that person a lot faster way of seeing what kind of person they're about to talk to or not about to talk to.
How many questions will you present to them? Is it a set list of questions, or how are you presenting those questions for the video?
They can choose different ones, but the goal is to have only a couple. Yeah. It's really key questions. It's not like 500 questions like in QA, like we also have. It's really a couple of key questions, really limited, so people also know what to expect, and not like crazy questions that don't really make a lot of sense. It's really about trying to get the users to tell something about themselves that's really relevant.
Gotcha. And how will you measure success around that piece of functionality, the videos? What represents success for you?
That's a good question. It's definitely not something we believe that everybody will have a video biography, but what we at least want a decent percentage of users to use this feature to actually help them build a better profile.
What would you say is a good percentage? Say in 2 years' time, that would be a good hurdle rate that you'd expect. It's been presented to everybody, it's been promoted to everybody, and X% have signed up, and you're happy that that percentage has. So what's that hurdle rate for the percentage, would you say? In 2 years?
That's a good question. I think if you look at the ratio of people that upload pictures, for example, today, I think 10% would probably be already a good success. Yeah. In 2 years, I think it should be more. Yeah. But I guess people are a bit shy on video because it reveals a bit more than pictures. It's less easy to fake, you could say, or Photoshop or improve or whatever. So I think if we see in the first months 10%, we would be already quite happy.
Yeah.
But of course, we'll do our best to promote this, and we'll add also a separate section in search where people can see just the people that have a video. For that way, you can actually look at if users feel that this is a really great way of seeing who I'm about to talk to, that they can see only the people who have a video, for example.
Great. Joost, you're the CEO of Twoo. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.